My friends, something truly remarkable is about to happen in the history of GoldenEye 007 speedrunning. Yes, by the end of the year, we could see a new world record take the spot atop the leaderboard as GoldenEye's longest standing untied world record, which is perhaps the most illustrious and prestigious recognition that can possibly be bestowed upon a world record. And not only that, but the analysis of this record has me pondering about life, the world, and the passage of time as a whole. So today, let's look at Perfect Ace's magnificent Facility Agent 42 and how it might go down in the history books as GoldenEye's greatest, longest standing untied world record.
Here we go!
So here's the situation. On July 7th, 2019, Perfect Ace achieved a world record on GoldenEye's second stage, Facility, Agent difficulty, beating the level in 42 seconds. This is just one of Ace's 200 plus career world records, and one of his 76 career untied world records. And it was even one of 18 untied world records set in the year 2019 across the entire GoldenEye speedrunning community. But unlike other records set that year by his contemporaries, like Marc Rutzou's legendary Silo Agent 59, or Clemens's Bunker 1 Double Agent 101, Ace's Facility Agent 42 has remained untied ever since. But why? Well, perhaps unsurprisingly, Facility 43 was first achieved by Ace as well in December 2012, but it was matched in less than a year by his longtime rival and arch nemesis, Marc Rutzou. These 43s were a sort of natural evolution of speedrunning on Facility, with a couple more optimizations made to even previous runs, in terms of shooting the KF7 to lure guards to open certain doors, and figuring out exactly where to use 3 mines to self-boost, namely doing so in the labs where you could eliminate the most guards, thus reducing the most lag. 43 would actually be tied by 10 different speedrunners come summer 2019. It was considered a very, very strong record, needing high skill movement and a persistent grind to pull off, as well as having clutch nerves not to screw up the ending, where you must plant 2 remote mines relatively accurately to blow up the tanks in the bottling room, Objective C, and also properly time the ending so Trevelyan's Objective B, Rendezvous with 006, is completing in the fade as you're exiting the stage. So, it wasn't a record like a damn 53 that had hundreds of ties and needed to be broken or overdue. Facility 43 was actually quite strong. But that being said, Perfect Ace is Perfect Ace, and so he used one additional innovation to help him get the 42. Mainly these remote mine boosts in the opening ventilation shaft of the level. While this doesn't save a full second, we can see in direct comparison videos that it definitely saves a visible amount of time, just enough time for Ace to masterfully play out a truly remarkable, perfect-looking run and get his time of 42 seconds. Not only that, but he even got what is called the time not saved glitch, where the level clearly shows that the mission was completed, but the time did not save into the cartridge's memory, which is something that happens when you complete the stage on the same frame an objective is completing. In this case, Trevelyan's Objective B, which is simply a countdown timer from when you initiate his speech. So Ace timed the ending quite literally frame perfectly on this 42. So all that is good and well, but the thing is, there are many world records in the game which are equally impressive, and which I could equally sing the praises of in regards to why they're close to unmatchable, or truly remarkable, or whatever the case may be. But here's the thing. For one reason or another, no one has been able to tie Facility Agent 42, and if we get to December 7th, 2025 with no one matching the score, Ace's Facility Agent 42 will surpass Marc Rutzou's damn Double Agent 155 as the single GoldenEye Untied World record which has remained untied for the longest period of time, 2,345 days. Is Facility 42 really as good or better than Marc's truly legendary classic run? What's going on here? Something that I can't help but ponder as I sit here weighing Facility Agent 42 by Perfect Ace on one hand, and Damn Double O Agent 155 by Marc Rutzou on the other, is really just the deep passage of time and how the years feel so different depending on where they are. You know, Marc's Damn 155 was set in this era that I feel has almost been lost to time, almost this unspeakably early era when it comes to speedrunning these days, which is kind of ironic in its own right because, you know, I started speedrunning GoldenEye in 2005, and these Damn 155 and another one of his Damn records took place in January 2011, so like more than 5 years into it. But the passage of time ever since just seems so insane. You know, Twitch itself, the live streaming service, came about in mid-2011, and it really started taking off in like 2012, 2013. So Marc's Damn 155 predates Twitch. It feels like it was done in this era where speedrunning was like this very, even more niche thing than it is today. Almost this top secret, truly unspeakable thing that you would have to go to the speakeasies of the internet in order to participate in. And then the recordings of Marc's 155s, you know, are so horrible on this dilapidated VHS tape, you know, recording NTSC footage on PAL videotapes or something like that. And, you know, there's sort of been this mythology around these records that Marc hadn't seen the sunlight for 1 month or sometimes 3 months leading up to these damn records. You know, these scores almost feel prehistoric in their own right, and the depths that Marc had to go through to achieve such a time. And then the record was so amazing, so incredible, that it lasted for years and years and years. It lasted through the beginning of the Twitch era. It lasted through sort of the expansion of speedrunning and speedrunning reaching more of a mainstream audience. It lasted through, you know, these speedrunning marathons giving more and more attention to speedrunning over the years. It lasted into the early days of speedrunning content being made, where people like me and other YouTube creators started actually diving into the mechanics and explaining what made these records great to begin with. And it lasted through this period where hundreds, thousands of people learned about speedrunning and joined and actually did it themselves for the first time in the sort of mid-late 2010 era. You know, Marc Rutzou's Damn Double Agent 155 lasted through all of that until mid-2017. I started streaming Damn Double Agent kind of as a crazy quest to see how close I could get to tying it. We came up with a sort of a new strategy where we could lure a door open in the basement, and then Ace, a much better player than myself, used that strategy, which saved a bit of time, to finally match Marc's Damn 155. You're like, that just feels like this Odyssean saga, these eons of the internet that took place, that Marc's Damn Double Agent 155 lived through. You know, lived through the era before Twitch, and it survived all the way into like the Fortnite era, the TikTok era, which is just so incredible to believe. And then you look at Ace's Facility Agent 42, which happened in July 2019, and it just feels like yesterday. And I know you can take a step back, and it's like it happened in 2019, which was before these sort of lost years of, you know, the great illness and so on and so forth. And that certainly saw a few people join the community and play for themselves, but the time just feels like it's flashed by, and now we're here. It certainly feels like a lot less has happened in the meantime. And that might just be chalked up to, you know, you see these memes online about, you know, when you were our age, the viewers of this channel, the generational growth in gaming was truly remarkable. You know, you started playing an overhead, top-down Zelda, and within 2 generations, you're playing Ocarina of Time or Wind Waker. It's like unbelievable. Meanwhile, the generational leaps in gaming today are like maybe slightly better shadows on a character's face, kinda, maybe. And so when I look back at sort of the breadth of speedrunning history that's happened since Ace's Facility 42, it just feels like less has happened. And that just might be the nature of time and being alive and growing up and getting older. And that might really be all there is to say about that. Mechanic-wise, skill-wise, these are both great world records. It just so happened that Marc's Damn Double Agent 155 was done in this time with a lot less community collaboration, fewer tools to investigate all of the sort of possible improvements to speedrun strategies. And that was ultimately its demise, is that a new strategy came along. And what's amazing is that Marc himself is the one who used that technique to improve the 155 to 154, where the record still stands today. Now, it's been tied by a couple of others, Clemens and Cali W, and I'm sure a guy like Ace could tie it if he decided to put his mind to it. But I think that leads into the next thing I want to talk about, which is like, who is going to tie any of these great records that still remain? In the 2010s, and I feel like I was a big part of this, is we sort of built up this lore and history of speedrunning that I guess had existed, since the early days, the 90s and 2000s, in many games. And it was the first opportunity we had on YouTube, on Twitch, on other platforms to really tell the story of why this is truly amazing. Like, what actually went into why these records are good. And that can be in any game, not just in GoldenEye and with Marc's Damn Double Agent record. And just this lore and this inspiration, inspired people to play the games and try to sort of become the hero themselves and slay these dragons themselves. I feel like I built up Marc's Damn Double Agent 155 to be such an insane dragon, this like mythological quest, and it kind of was in its own right. And there are some other records that are like that as well, but particularly the 155. And I guess at some point, things became so maybe routine, or people got used to it, or oversaturated maybe, that, this Facility Agent 42, while it's a remarkable record, just hasn't had that history and lore built up around it. And perhaps that's what I'm trying to do today. A couple of these other records that Ace also achieved in 2019, especially his Control Sweep, these are some insane records as well. They're very good. It's like, who's gonna tie these? And that sort of leads into it. It's like, maybe the breadth of development and history of these games is mostly done. And that can be a bit of a melancholic thing to ponder, especially as myself and others have dedicated so much of our lives to speedrunning these games and sort of telling the stories of the speedrunners and examining the human condition as it pertains to speedrunning these games. But maybe, and probably, we are approaching the true late stages of speedrunning, especially when it comes to, Nintendo 64 5th generation games. Now, personally, and I know I'm biased, I will always think these games are the best for speedrunning. They're in the perfect Goldilocks zone where the games are just complicated enough to make very good speedruns. You have three-dimensional worlds to explore and platform and jump and move around. Quite more advanced than a lot of the 2D games before its time, but not so advanced where I feel like the speedrunning experience is ruined with loading screens or game patches or dozens of versions across dozens of consoles and platforms. So the N64 speedrunning era is, in my opinion, the best, and this is something I often ponder, is it is coming to an end, or at least the breadth of the stories have been told. And that might be the case as really embodied and represented by this Facility Agent 42. Ace is a great speedrunner, no doubt. Facility Agent 42 is an amazing world record, no doubt. But when I think of the most legendary times he's ever set, it just doesn't quite make me feel the same way as when I think about, say, his Jungle Secret Agent 53, which is the second oldest standing untied world record in history. And, all these I have amazing Speedlore episodes about if you want to know more of the story. Or like his Train Agent 101, one of the most insane records ever achieved. These are the ones that were truly remarkable and truly shocking. But you get into the sort of analogies with sports where you can't really compare eras of, the modern basketball or hockey or football with the era of 30 years ago. And that's sort of just the nature of the beast again, the nature of getting older, the nature of pining for a different time. And ultimately, I look at when Ace achieved that record, mid-2019, he was at a point in his life, he was still in his mid-20s, and he was sort of able to still play a lot of GoldenEye. And now when I look at certainly his most iconic rivals and arch nemesis in the game, Marc, Rutzou, and Clemens, and even Boss to a large extent, we are all getting older. We're in our 30s and 40s, believe it or not. We don't have maybe the time or certainly the desire to spend that time playing these games anymore. And it could certainly be, a youth is wasted on the young kind of situation where when you're 18, 20, 22, you're like, well, you know what, I'll play this GoldenEye level for 200 hours and get an amazing record. And once you get into your 30s, you're like, listen, it was fun while I did it, but I would just rather do something else. And so it's not necessarily a question of, is Facility Agent 42 the best record ever set in GoldenEye history? And it may go down in the history books as that by the metric of longest standing untied world record. We may see that by the end of the year, but it's almost more of a sign of being the last great record. And I think that makes it an interesting story unto itself for the breadth of all that it represents. But hey, there's the story of Ace's Facility Agent 42. Will it become GoldenEye's longest standing untied world record? Mark your calendar, my friends, for December 7th, 2025 to see if it indeed does. In the meantime, we'll have many more videos to come, and I do want to tell the stories of The World Is Not Enough in Speedlore form, so stay tuned for all that. Thank you for watching, my friends. A huge thanks to the Patreons for supporting over on Patreon. Stay true, and I will see you in the next stream, video, or fireside.